back to Kind of Hot and Kind of Healthy. Today, we have a really exciting episode. And it's all about like weddings because last week we shared, which is a little bit late. So you guys probably saw on social media, but I'm engaged, which is really exciting. And Maddie's been married. So we want to talk about weddings and all that fun shit because it's just like really exciting. And there's a lot of, it's like much deeper than just like planning your wedding, right? Like
Mhm.
there's a lot that goes into it. So before we get into that, is there any like top of show things like that you wanted to share or like any big updates? I know you had some like um autoimmune updates that you had like you posted on your story. How are you doing
Uh,
with that?
mentally recovering.
Oh,
Um, well, it's like very layered, right?
yeah.
I think the last episode we talked about, I was getting a candida testing. I just got the results. I do not have them physically with me or on my computer yet. My practitioner has them. So we'll probably review those on Monday, which is, exciting. Um, but we're kind of getting to this, and like if I sound like a broken record, I apologize because like I said, I feel like all of our episodes are like one episode. I don't know. I can't
I
remember which one's which.
know.
They're all the same. But we're getting to this like, yeah, head of the road where we're like looking at two different paths. And if anyone is familiar or doesn't know anything about biologicals, it's which what I am on, it's Humira. There's one similar to it called Enbrel. um, they do not work long term. And they also do a lot of damage over time. If you can imagine like your immune system and someone like basically if there's this is a simplified version of it, but an on and off switch. Okay. A
Mm.
biological is kind of like doop, it turns your immune system off. So for a lot of people, they get sick very easily. Knock on wood, this is not wood, but I barely get sick, which is
Oh
like a
wow.
blessing. But
Yeah, I
I
was
think
gonna
it's
ask you, do you
mhm,
like find yourself like getting like sick or run
mhm.
down easily? Well, that's and then also helps that you like really take good care of yourself.
Yeah, I am like very like diligent with everything I do because I'm taking something that's like turning off my immune system. So over the vid, phase and
Mm,
everything, it was we were a little scared, but like I got it and I
yeah.
was I was okay. I just got sick. I think I had a stomach bug that I got way worse sick.
Oh my
But
God.
anyway, but yeah, so that's the problem is when you're on something like that, it turns off your immune system. And also there's only so much you can do if you are being treated for something. So we're getting to this point, like I was talking about with her, where we are running out of so many things that we can tackle and try to improve on and do this because we have something that is shifting my immune system.
Mm.
So it takes us to, okay, we need to get off of this eventually. That's the goal. Like, end of the
Yeah.
day, I want to be off of it before I'm 30. That's the goal. And I'm 27, going to be 28 in February. And I really want to be off of it because long term, it's not good for me. And
Right.
it usually only lasts like 5 to 7 years. And I'm
That's
coming up,
crazy.
I know. Because think about it, like when you're like 80 and you get put on Humira, which like usually happens, like
Right.
how long are you living for? So it's like people can get away with it with
When did you start it, if you don't mind me asking?
no, I think it was like April after I turned 21.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. So like you like when you were young and you were having all of those
Yeah,
health
yeah.
issues. Wow, that's
Hmm.
crazy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
I
Well,
know.
it's really good that you're like so knowledgeable and proactive because like what's the alternative? Like do you like were you the one that brought this up that like hey, I want to try and get off of these or is it like a doctor saying, "Hey, we need to get off of these," which no.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Listen, that medication without insurance would be $5,000 a month.
Lovely. Wow.
And thank God for health insurance. I'm paying
Yeah.
five. So, we
That's
are
fucked. That is
I
so
know.
fucked. You pay
I
five
know.
dollars for something that they would have the balls to say, "Oh, it's $5,000." Like that would
I know.
kill people. That's like that's crazy money. Wow.
I think you can go to like Canada or Mexico
Sure.
and get it way cheaper, but also
Shout
like it's very
out.
safe. Shout out Canada.
Shout out Canada. My my sister actually, when she was home from Thailand, she like was moving to Vietnam. So there was a period of time where she was home. She didn't have like health insurance in the US.
Mhm.
And we live close to Montreal. So she was like, "Can I just like go and like get medication. I'm like, well, you need to have a prescription. Like, I don't really know how that works. And then she was also going to Mexico and she's like, well, can I just do it in Mexico? I'm like, I don't know how this works. I'm like, you are
Yeah.
stressing me out. And I don't know if she just had enough or whatever she figured out. But I was like, I would not have to want to have to stress about that. And I'm very lucky to not have to, but holy shit, that would be really stressful.
Yes, and I had a great idea because I'm going to be in Mexico in like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
in 16 days. I should do like a video tour of a pharmacia so you guys can see like
Yes.
literally all the
You can get
drugs that you
everything.
can get.
It's crazy. In like so many other countries, you can just walk into the pharmacy and like get what you need, and it's very accessible, which maybe sometimes is bad if certain things are
Mhm.
accessible, but whatever. But it's just like so much easier and it's like much more
Mhm.
affordable versus like
Mhm.
here. But that's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so you're getting off of it.
Yes,
You're
but it
going
wasn't,
to,
my
yeah,
doctor wasn't like, we need to
never.
get off of this. Like, they're just like, literally, I don't even see the rheumatologist. I see the
Sure.
PA.
Of
Like,
course.
and I see her for like 5 minutes. She does the same like tests on my
Yep.
shoulders and my hips and the same thing every time. How's the pain? Has it reduced? Has it stayed the same? Has it gotten any better? I'm like, no, no, no. Like, literally, it's the same thing. I get it on the scale. They don't do much crap, honestly.
Right. And like
Um,
you're paying like your copay to see them for $5 for five
I
minutes, which is
I
like,
know. I
okay.
know. Yeah. So it was definitely like I knew I wanted to do this, but
Yeah.
I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the money yet to do this because
Yeah.
it is not, which is so just not twisted, backwards. Like if I want
Yeah.
to get off, if you want to get off the medication and get help, like that should be covered by insurance, not just getting a prescription. So that really
Totally.
sucks.
Totally. Like
But
there
yeah,
should
so
be alternative approaches, but unfortunately,
yeah.
it's like the alternative stuff is like you're on your own, and
Yeah.
that's a problem. That is a problem
Yeah.
in itself.
And I
Ugh.
was like scared of, when I was trying to find a practitioner coach to help me with it, like I interviewed like 10. It was
Yeah, I
funny because
remember you said
yeah,
that.
I hired the first one I talked to, funny enough. And
Well,
she's awesome.
you did your research, which is like important. Like I think
Yeah.
sometimes people in your gut, but also it doesn't hurt to do your research. Like that's just you being smart and it's your body. So you're like, I need to make sure that I'm going with somebody that I feel really cares about me and my situation.
Yes, I 100% agree. And so it, worked out for the best. But yeah, so now it's going on 10 months of being in this journey. And I know the next thing that I really have to do is get my body and mind ready to get off Humira because the last time I was off of it was when I was really, really sick. I couldn't walk. I was super depressed. I had extra weight on me because I was so inflamed. Um, so it's like retraining my body and brain that it's okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm safer now. And that's like really like scary to think about, like going back
Yeah.
to like potentially that. But because we've talked about like nervous system stuff so much, and I talked about this with like my other coach, and she said like you need to get your body like into like understanding it's safe. Because if I go off
Yeah.
of it and I'm like pent up, like, oh my God, I'm gonna get sick. I'm not gonna be able to walk. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and be like a zombie like I was before. Like that's not going to help me have like a easy transition off of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of like my next goal. I need to work on that with my somatic coach and get ready in that aspect because we're kind of like
Yeah.
just running out of stuff to like do.
Right. Which is also frustrating because you're doing all these things and it's like, okay, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. And now it's like, okay, I have to get to the big obstacle. But from an
Mhm.
outside perspective, you are in control in a way that you were never before because you have so much support. You have so
Mhm.
many people on your team that like are working with you that care about you and you've evolved as a human. Like you are not
Mhm.
who you were. So even though it is a scary process and it's like, oh, the unknowns, you're in such a better position. And I think I like the idea of like preparing my body and like telling it is safe. Like that is such a huge component that
Mhm.
is so overlooked, which I
Mhm.
love that like that is a huge part of the plan for you. Like that is just like makes a world difference.
I know it's easy to say. I'm like, now how do I get
Totally.
there?
Yeah,
Like,
and that's why we like hire the professionals because they help
Yes.
us.
Yes. Yeah. It's like I wish, and I was telling this to my practitioner, I was like, I wish this was like as easy as being like, we have to do a reverse diet, like
Right.
where we eat more food to build a stronger metabolism. I wish it like I wish my fear right now was like, am I going to gain weight eating more food? I wish that was my fear right now. I really do.
Oh,
But it's
I
not.
know. I know. It's it's so hard. I think as you get into like deeper into your health and trying to understand certain things, it just is it can feel so much scarier. And that fear is just like it is valid across the board because man, trying to get off of a medication that you've been on for years is like
Mhm.
this has been my norm. Like what
Yeah.
new norm look like?
Yeah, and I'm one of the lucky ones because there's a lot of people that have to be on a biological and a pain med and an inflammatory
Wow.
reduction medicine, which one that I was on is called methotrexate. Let me tell you, that SOB is hard on your body, hard
Wow.
on your body.
Like
Like
what how?
well, if you take it wrong, you could die.
Oh,
That's for starters.
you're
Yeah, you could,
like you're like
yeah,
it's
if you
really hard on you because it could kill you if you do it wrong. That's
I
crazy.
I know. I want to say it's a leukemia based drug and it
Oh
treats
wow.
lots and lots of things. And so
Yeah.
when I first got sick and got the diagnosis, of course, insurance companies make you use a different drug. And then once you've tried that and it doesn't work, they can let you use the more expensive stuff. So
Sure.
I got all the way from you start with like one pill. I think I got all the way up to seven, and the most you can take is 10. You take it
Wow.
like I think it was like once a week. And so once I got to seven and there was no improvements, I got like green lighted by insurance to add in Humira, and then I slowly backed off of methotrexate. But I was just so inflamed, and it's just hard on your body. And some people are on that for like years and years and
Wow.
years. And then yeah, and then you're
Damn.
just have new problems you have to deal with. But I was glad I was only on it for I don't know. No, I wasn't even on it for a year, if that.
Wow. Damn.
Mhm.
That's crazy. Well, I'm like really glad that you're in this space where you have where you have like the room to like discover it and figure out like
Mhm.
this journey. And I think like by 30 is like a fantastic goal because you're not being like, okay, by like next week I need to be feeling my best self. Like we're being realistic. Kind
Mhm.
of like some some people that we may work with or that want to work with us are like, I need to lose this weight before a wedding and it's like coming up in like 2 months and it's like,
Mhm.
whoa, we need to be realistic. So you're being
Yeah.
realistic with yourself, which is
Yeah.
really important because sometimes like our mental health does not want us to be realistic. It's like
Mhm.
I'm scared. We need to like fix this now. But
Mhm.
damn, well, I like that is a lot, but you're like you shoulder it very well. I mean, that's a lot.
I push it deep down.
Oh
Trying not
no.
to. I'm trying not to.
Well, you're
Um,
working on that, which is good.
yeah. Yeah, I'm getting better at that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's funny you said that about like the time thing because I had an
Yeah.
idea for a post. I was like just, moving around in my head. And I was like, what if people stopped putting an end date, a goal date on their goals? And not that like mine shouldn't have a goal, right? Like by 30 it is reasonable. It gives me
Yeah.
time for life to happen, things to come up. Like I'm not ready yet. I didn't realize I was going to have to work on the nervous system part of this until like maybe a month or two ago, like
Right.
wasn't on my radar. So it gives me time to adjust. But I always wonder, like, especially with the New Year's kind of coming up, if you stop putting an end date to a goal that you want to hit, how much more successful would you
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. That is good. And we use that with clients a lot because like they know us, they trust us. And once they start seeing progress, it's like, oh, I actually don't care about the end date anymore. Like I'm feeling good.
Mhm.
I have clients say that all the time. And I'm like, yes, like let's bottle this energy and like
Mhm.
throw it at everybody because it's true. I mean, some things in life, yes, you need a timeline. You need
Mhm.
goals and dates and things because that's how life works. But when it's your body, you don't necessarily need that. You might want it,
Mhm.
but that want might actually be pushing you further away from your goal because it's causing stress and you have unrealistic expectations. And let's say you're like, by Friday, I want to lose these 5 pounds. Friday
Mm-hmm.
comes and you don't lose the 5 pounds. You're like, oh, fuck this. It's not working. And it's like, is it? Is it not working? Or did you just not give yourself enough time?
Mm-hmm. Or you
Yeah.
put so much unnecessary and unneeded pressure on
Yeah.
yourself, and then you're like devastated. I didn't hit it, you know.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you would have just kept going a little bit longer, you probably would have gotten there.
Oh, 100%. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why people don't see results is because of that pressure. And it's like, well, I didn't get to the goal by this date. So it didn't work. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're failing to see the progress that you did make and you are
Mm-hmm.
feeling better. So why don't we just keep going? But it's like that logical part of our brain doesn't work in those moments sometimes,
Yeah, because
which,
the
yeah,
the pressure and like especially with health and fitness, those goals are so oftentimes tied to things that have
yes,
affected us emotionally, whether we want to believe it or not.
100%.
Like I wrote a post, I can't remember how long ago this was, maybe last week. Um, and something I like realized at the business retreat that I went to in Santa Fe, like something that came up for me was something that my grandpa, who is long past now, said to me when I was like 6 and like told me I had a big stomach. And like I know when I was like 6.
I want to
And
give I want to give 6-year-old Maddie a hug.
I know. And like, you know, that I think I cried and I cried because my sister
Yeah.
was tiny and little and like, and he said to me, you know, and then I was crying and he was like, oh, quit those crocodile tears. Like my grandpa was just like, he was a hard man, like
Yeah,
very
yeah,
hard. And I haven't thought about that. I don't know how many years. And like, I
yeah.
thought about that. Like, it came up for me at the retreat when we were talking about things. And I was like, whoa, like, I didn't think this impacted me still. And
Yep.
so oftentimes we have these goals that are really based around what we want to do with our body to hit a weight goal or hit an aesthetic look. And we put pressure on ourselves to hit at a certain time. And then we're also tying it to something that's super emotionally triggering for us. So then when we don't
Yeah.
hit it, we're even more devastated because now that person who said something to you 10, 5, whatever years ago, they confirmed it in your mind.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And
And it's
that's
like,
that's the part of the work that like is not talked about enough and sometimes or a lot of the times is avoided because it's too much to handle. Like it's
mm-hmm,
too much to think about. Like in therapy the other day, I was talking with my therapist and I was like, okay, I'm starting this new medication. I take Lexapro and then I'm starting lamb something trim blah blah blah. And it has the only real side effect is it has like a life-threatening rash, which I don't know what the fuck that means. I looked it up. So if I'm not allowed to change any products, I'm not allowed to change anything. If I notice a rash, stop taking it. So we're talking and I'm like, that makes me a little nervous, like blah, blah, blah. And then I'm thinking about the own stigmas that I have around taking medication because of comments that people have made or different things. And I didn't realize how much it affected me till I'm sitting on my couch just crying and being like, this is why I feel this way. And I'm like,
mm,
but then I sat in that moment and I'm like, but I'm actually in this moment, I'm overcoming that because yes, it affected me, but I also can see how necessary it is for me to be on certain things and like
mm-hmm,
if you can get to that point where you are like really secure and it takes a lot. Like I've been with my
mm-hmm.
therapist for over 4 years and I always struggle with these conversations and like conversations like you said like with your grandpa just like people make little comments like I had one aunt and she would always say a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. And I would
Oh,
think about that sometimes. And I brought it up in therapy the other day and I was like, for my wedding, I am literally not stressed about what I'm going to look like at all. Like, yes, I'm prepping right now and I'm working with my coach and we're reversing and I do want to lose weight, but that's not my concern. And
mm-hmm,
6 months ago, a year ago, that would have really been my concern.
mm-hmm.
Like I would have just kept hearing moment on the lips, lifetime on the hips, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's
What changed
sad.
for you?
Um, well, I think it probably was the most triggering when I had gained like a lot of weight from my anxiety and working with somebody that just didn't meet my needs, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm not regretful for anything. I think that everything kind of happens for a reason and it allowed me as a coach to grow. But when
Mm-hmm.
I was in the moment where I was my heaviest and I really felt unhealthy. Like it was just
Mm-hmm.
my mental health was shit. My physical health was like not great. I was just like I don't feel good. Those types of comments were just like running in my head. Like I didn't want to be in front of pictures. I'm thinking, oh God, what do I look like? What do my family think about me? Like what, all this sort of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And as I was working with a new coach, which you also work with her, um, we had just a lot of really good conversations. Like we would just be voice messaging. And I'm a very like verbal processor. So I
Mm-hmm.
would just kind of be talking and like she would pull things out. She's like, oh, you said this, you said this. And we would really
Mm-hmm.
deep dive. And I got to the point where these people's comments that were made were not actually my own and I was just shouldering them and they weren't my
Mm-hmm.
insecurities but they were other
Mm-hmm.
people's but because it was
Mm-hmm.
like a broken record it became my
Mm-hmm.
insecurity and it became my narrative. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I did actually gain like a substantial amount of weight and I'm losing it, I really wanted to rework that narrative because I was beginning to be really proud of myself in a different way. And I was like, I am losing weight, yes, because I want to lose weight, but I want to feel confident and healthy. And I want to show myself that it doesn't matter what the scale is really saying or what the clothes are saying. It's like, I just want to feel that confidence that I really want to overcome this because I do want to have children and I don't want to unconsciously like pass those things down. And
Mm-hmm.
so while I like went through my dieting phase, it wasn't really that successful because my metabolism was like fucking tanked, but I like basically begged her. I was like, I really just need to like lose some weight. Like it is, I'm not going to be a good client if you don't let me diet, which like is good and bad, but like I also know like what I'm getting into. And so I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, but then when we started my reverse, it just my body was really happy and things started feeling
Mm-hmm.
better. And slowly those comments affected me less and less. And
Mm-hmm.
it probably had some to do with the number on the scale or the clothes fitting better, but I actually felt confident because I'm like, I dug myself out of this hole and I could have stayed there and stayed there with those comments and just like let myself sit in it, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not easy because some days you like feel like shit and you're like, oh, those comments come back. But I feel now I have the tools to be like, that's not my narrative. That is not
Mm-hmm.
me. And it's not like it happens overnight. I mean, I've been hearing those things, you hear them mostly your entire life as I mean, 6 years old. That's pretty far back to remember. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not an easy process, but I mean, how did you overcome that? Like you said it came up when you were in Santa Fe and you're like, whoa, I haven't thought about that in forever. Like, did it hit you the same way as it did years ago? Like, what was that like?
Well, first, I just want to say that's a really um what was I going to say? Like a beautiful realization to make. Like
Yeah.
that someone else about yourself, someone else's comments on you, you don't have to own those because
Yeah.
if I had to guess, everyone probably has like a weird Aunt Susie or Aunt whoever, Brenda, who makes comments about what you're eating, what you're wearing, and it comes from a place of insecurity and things that they haven't dealt with.
Yes.
Because usually the thing that you point out to people is what you are having trouble with accepting about yourself. And it could be whatever it is. So
Anything.
to have that realization is like, and take that pressure of like, this is about me. It's really about them. That's like really like just releasing. Right. And
Yeah.
now you can like move forward and make new, like, not carry that burden of feeling that's about you.
Right. And it's like taking a soaking wet trench coat off of you. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, wow, like I feel
Mm-hmm.
lighter. And like that actually wasn't mine to bear.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, you have to go through a lot of hurt before you get to a place of like healing. And
Mhm.
that's a scary process. Like that's a part where I think a lot of people might not want to go, because I just like, I would be sitting with my therapist and just like having these breakthroughs and just bawling and being like, oh, that was a lot. And he's like, that was a
Mhm.
lot, but like, that was really good. And I'm like, I love you.
Mhm.
Like, you are a king. Thank you for validating me.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. I mean, did you have those like moments like of like, could you like sit there and realize like, your own, like, this is not mine to bear? Like, how did that happen for you?
Yeah, so back to like the Santa Fe thing, like when it came up, like, and I struggle with emotions like a lot, like just
Yeah.
have never dealt with them well, wasn't used to having big emotions. And like, it was always like if I was crying in front of someone, it was always like, oh, I'm sorry, like, like just,
Yeah.
push it
Okay.
away.
Yep.
And so when it came up, I was just like full on, like,
You couldn't
literally
stop it.
couldn't stop it, could barely like speak. And I was like, I don't know why this is coming up. Like,
Yeah.
so it was like very like, I don't, not like humiliating in any terms, but I was like not crying like only to myself in front of the mirror. It was like a group of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
mind you, that was the first time I met those people, those women. I knew of them and we'd been on social media friends. Like, this is the first time we met in person. So it was extremely vulnerable to do that.
I have a
Um,
question.
yeah.
Does sometimes it feel safer to like break down in front of like seemingly like strangers versus like really
Oh,
close people?
yes.
Yeah.
And
I don't,
I
what
mean,
is that about?
I don't
Because I
know.
feel that too.
If we're talking like family, way harder, way
Embarrassing,
harder.
like mortifying.
Yes, I know, and I'm trying so hard to not like harbor that, like,
Yeah.
oh, but it's also like, and not saying my family is toxic by any means, but something I asked my mentor about, like, I'm like, it's just so hard. I feel like I go home and I get triggered by all these things, and she was like, it's hard to, crap, what did she say? It's hard to like recover and grow in like the place where it was like toxic, like you don't get
Yeah.
like
You
if
can't like
you
heal in the same environment where you were
you got
hurt.
sick. Yes, where you
Yes.
got sick.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, you
Yes.
can't heal where you got sick, which is
Mm.
so true. Like
Yeah.
if I was like had mold toxicity, right? And I continued to live in a house full of mold, am I going to get over mold toxicity? No.
No. Oh my
No.
God.
So
That's
that's what she
great.
said to
That is a
me. And I was,
great, that is a
yes.
great analogy. Write that down, people. That is so good.
Write it down. So yeah, so that was part of it. And then what was your other question? I can't remember. Like, how did I get through those things?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, was it, did it take you, like, have you been working to process it over time? Because you've been working on yourself as I have for a while. And was this something that you thought you dealt with and all of a sudden it came up and you're like, whoa, what is this? Or have you never dealt with it?
I would put that event with my grandpa into like the bucket of like body dysmorphia, body image issues. And
Yeah.
if we talk about it as like a bucket of like all these things in there, I feel like I've been working on those since the inception of them.
Yeah.
Um and it's like I'm not going to put an end date until when I need to be over those things, because like some things you just like truly may never like truly get over, and I think that's okay, and that's just like part
Yeah.
of part of being human. But I would say it's definitely gotten better. I
Yeah.
haven't thought about that specific event in a long time, and it just like came up when we were talking about things.
Yep.
So I was like, ooh, maybe there's like still some like unpacking I need to do about that.
Yeah. Your
So
brain
yeah.
was like, I want you to try and work through this. And you're like, why now? Like,
Yes.
why now?
It's like I was just like going through like my like going through my brain. I found the door, and like the beast comes out, and I
You're
was
like,
like, oh
ah,
no, close that one. Do you know that SpongeBob meme? It's a meme now, but a SpongeBob episode where he's like deleting everything in his brain, and he
yes.
shows his brain, and they're all like running
It's
around,
on
like
fire. People are
yes,
running. I'm like,
they're like shredding paper.
constantly, that constantly. And
Yes.
sometimes like, especially when you're like with people that make you feel safe or you're sitting in therapy, you're like, why did I open that? Why? And then it's like chaos. And I'm like, oh my God, I have like 20 minutes left to like sit with my therapist. Like, I would like some resolution before I like have to leave and like deal with this
Literally.
dumpster fire.
But yeah, I just, some things I think will always just take longer to process and to
Yeah.
unpackage. Because I'm talking to a friend who um I'm not going to name her, but there was that shooting in Vegas, if you remember that,
Yeah.
at the concert.
Yeah.
She was 5 minutes away from being there. So she was running through Vegas when people were like, shoot her. And they ran
Horrifying.
and they barely got into this building and they're just sitting and waiting and like, oh my God. Like, and I asked her the other day, I was like, have you like gone through, like unpackaged that and felt like you've kind of recovered from it? And she's like, nope, absolutely not. And
Oh,
how many years ago was that?
that's and I think it's okay for everybody to like remind themselves that you are allowed to like work through that trauma in your own time
Mm-hmm.
because I've never been in a situation like that and I hope that I never have to experience something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine. I can't
Mm-hmm.
imagine trying to work through that. That is really intense and that's kind of
Yeah.
like the part about health and just like life in general, like that is overlooked. And like when people say like, talking about like getting married or like these big things that are coming up, this is the most important day of your life and put all this pressure on it. It's like, whoa, let's take a fucking step back and like let's realize that like yes it's important but we don't need to like pressure ourselves or put ourselves under such intensity when we have a lot of other things that we may need to deal with or things that come up that like
Yeah.
deserve our energy. But I mean, like, that's crazy. Holy shit. Yeah, that's a lot.
I know. I was like, oof. I'm like, here am I, like, like traumatized over my grandpa calling me like a whale. She's like fleeing for her life.
Stop it right now. I can't. I'm also like, if you get offended easily, we probably both laugh when we're like uncomfortable.
Oh,
We're feeling
yes. And
like
I have,
my sister,
God.
no, this is not funny. This is not funny. But she was riding her motorbike and she got hit by a car and it's not funny. She was okay. She didn't break anything. It's not funny.
Mhm.
But my first reaction was like, holy shit, are you okay? And then she was like, I'm fine. I'm just like a little shaken up and I'm scared. And I'm like, okay. And I started laughing. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I'm uncomfortable and you're so many miles away and I don't know what to do. And she's like, if I don't laugh, I will cry. So yes, we are laughing about this. And like, I'm sorry. That's how I process things sometimes. Like I laugh when things are hard. So
Oh
don't
yeah.
be offended, world. Or if you
No,
are, I don't know.
I feel like I'm like when I try to have like a uncomfortable-ish
Yeah.
conversation, it's like I like kind of smile. I'm like I just like don't like I mean I get awkward and I'm trying to work on that too. Like to just add to the list things Matt needs to work on. But yeah, and I also have dark humor. So
Oh
that
yeah, totally. We're so inappropriate.
yeah, so that doesn't help that's not the best for every situation, but yeah, if you don't laugh, then we will cry.
That is my motto. Like, and I swear, like I always like I was literally having a attack one time, and I was texting my sister, and I was like, "I'm losing my mind, lol. If I don't laugh, I'll cry." And she's like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, "No," but like,
uh,
lol. And she's like, "I can't." Like,
yeah.
it's you know what? It's what we do. People
Yeah.
have other tools, and this is what we're gonna use.
One of our tools is humor to cope.
Which, yeah, coping humor, I'm here for, but. I want to, before we continue off in our tangent like we do, I want to hear all about like, I know you had like a micro wedding. Is that what you called it?
Mhm.
Okay. I want to hear like everything because obviously like I saw some details on like social media, but like at that time we weren't like talking as much as we do on a day-to-day basis now. I want
Mhm.
to hear like what was that like and like just the whole decision behind it because we booked our wedding venue and I'm
Mhm.
like so fucking stoked and we were like talking to the guy yesterday and he's like, "Oh, October 2025 is already booked out." And I was like, "Do you have weekends in September?" And he's like, "Yeah, we have a few." There are 2 weekends left in September for
Wait,
2025.
2025?
Yes. So we
Holy
snatched up
crap.
a date. I was like, contract, give me the deposit, like give me deposit, blah, blah, blah. I was like, put the name down. Nobody can have that date. Which is crazy. Like, holy
Yeah.
shit. So, like, how did you get to the point where you're like, I want something smaller, something intimate? What was that like? Because I can see how that is appealing, but I am also a people pleaser. And I think like
Mm.
I would just be very stressed out. So give me like, what was that like? Because I'm so interested. And I love how you did like, I loved the decorations and like watching you
Mm.
put everything together. I was like, vibes. I love this.
Yeah. I did not want a wedding, and my husband really wanted his family there, and he has a bunch of
Okay.
siblings, like three siblings, yeah.
Okay.
Two brothers and a sister, and then they all have kids, and they really wanted them to be flower girls and all that stuff. And
Oh,
so he
yeah.
wanted his family there. I wanted to elope. I was fine, literally just us two.
Yeah.
So the doing what he wants and also what I want was the birth of a micro wedding.
Oh, I love
So
that. Yeah.
so that's how we got to that. And then also I personally did not want to spend like a dime on getting married. Like we wanted to go to Italy. Well, I don't think we knew at that point. I think we did. But I wanted to have like a really nice honeymoon and travel and
Yeah.
use money for the house and while we're doing all these things. So I was like, F a wedding. Like I really don't want one. But I, met him halfway and did the
Yeah.
micro wedding. So that's how we got to that point. And then when it came to like all the stuff that goes into it, like did you want to know like how I figured out like what
Yes.
I wanted for okay,
Yes.
like
Like I love, honestly, in another life, I might have been a wedding planner because
mm,
I fucking love it. Like I have always been like, I think probably in high school, I started like different wedding pin boards. And like they're
mm,
probably fucking, I don't even know what account they would be under, but they're probably fucking ugly. And I would never use, like, I would never have like the same style. But I just love the idea. And I'm like that fucking simp that is like crying when people are getting married. Like movies, seeing my friends, like I am such a softie when it comes to
mhm.
that. Where like in other areas of my life, like I'm not really a hugger. I don't really want you to touch me. But if it's on the day of your wedding, I'm like, oh my God. Like, bitch, what? So I think it has to do with like maybe a past life of mine.
Probably something to gotta work through. But like decor, like I knew I didn't want it like pumpkiny, like fall. We got
Right, because it was
married,
the fall.
yeah, so 10-16 was when we got married.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, that's so
no,
exciting. Almost
I
happy
know.
anniversary.
Thanks. Now it doesn't even feel like a year because we've been together for like 8 years. So I'm just like, what's a
So
year?
you were together like 7 years when you got married.
Like seven and a half ish.
Seven
Yeah.
and a half. Yeah. James and I will be, we've been together 8 years, like now-ish. So when we get
Oh
married, we'll be
wow.
like 10 years. So like wedding
Wow.
is also just like we've already been like we've been doing this. So it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like the
The,
pressure of like, oh,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah. And
like.
so no, I think it makes it like yeah, everyone has their own kind of path of that,
Hmm.
But I knew like decoration wise, like I didn't want anything super fall. Like I didn't want like any flowers, honestly. Like I was like, the minimalist, the better. My
Yeah.
flowers were from Etsy and they are dried. So I have them like in my when you walk in. I think actually no,
Oh,
they're gonna be in my kitchen, but when you walk in, you can see them. So I have my flowers, they're all perfect still because they're dried or wood. Um and then my mom did a ton of the decorations, and my mom's best friend, who was a florist and worked for a floral shop for years, they did a lot of the arrangements.
oh, I love that.
The cookie table, of course, Pittsburgh, we had a cookie table, and
Is that like a
everyone,
Pittsburgh thing?
yes.
Okay.
And usually they're like huge. Ours was pretty big.
At weddings, it's like a thing,
Yes,
or
yes.
just in like at parties.
Weddings is like a
Okay.
big thing, but people always bring like desserts and stuff,
Yeah. Okay.
But we had so much, we like froze so much giving it
Yeah.
away, like, and we just had like a Google sign up sheet, like what you're gonna bring. There was
Oh, I
more
love
than
that.
enough. So we didn't do a cake. I was like, I'm not spending money on a cake. I'd rather like die than do that. And then food, yeah, I know. Food wise, we did a local place. Joel's brother knew a guy who like retired and just does like pulled pork, those type of things,
Yeah.
barbecue, like just she just does it for fun, like, and just takes
Love
on a few
that.
people here and there, and it was literally so cheap and we had so much left over. Joel was eating it for like ever.
That's
So we
iconic.
froze that. I know, it was insane. And then what else did we do? The lighting and stuff, my sister had a gift card for a lighting company for her wedding that she like switched her plans for her wedding, so she gave me
Yeah.
the gift card, so I had my lighting. I know.
Dude, that's
So over,
amazing.
I know. So we spent less than 5 grand, like maybe under high, maybe it was like just under 4 or something. So we spent
Hmm.
like nothing. I was like, I'm not spending anything on this wedding. And that was a
Yeah,
gift from his parents.
I
So
love that.
I chose to spend nothing.
Yeah,
My dress was like 100 something dollars from Lulu's. Getting it altered cost more, but I was like,
dude,
whatever,
that dress slayed. I loved that.
you
Like it
know.
was
I'll just put a
so
picture up.
perfect. Yeah, I know. No, I'm gonna ask you for a picture because
Oh
right here,
yeah.
that dress slayed. I remember like
Mhm.
seeing you get it on Instagram, and I was like, oh my God, she ordered it from Lulu's. Is she scared? Like, what if it doesn't work out? Like, that's like online shopping is like so hit or miss, but
Mhm.
the fact that like it looked so dope and like just being in like the whole aesthetic with the
Mhm.
dress, I was like, oh my God, I
Oh, it
love
matched it
it. Was
perfectly. Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Oh
And then
my
what
God.
else? The venue, I want to say, was Brady's Run. And it was like four or no, $500 or $600. And then we got half of it back.
Why?
Safety deposit.
Oh,
Um,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
They're like, if you leave it clean, you get half it back. I was like, it's gonna be
You're
clean. So I
like,
got
bitch, everybody clean the shit.
yes. So I got half that back. So that was nice. And then the biggest expense, oh, my hair and makeup. I was like, I am not paying for a trial. Heck
Yeah.
no. Didn't get a trial, just hope for the best. And it worked out like just about pretty much perfect. And I
Yeah.
like did my research. I looked at like so many people. And then I also saw so many like horror stories of trials and they looked like dog shit. I was like,
Yeah.
if I come out orange, I will cry, you know? But
Yeah.
I didn't. Everything turned out fine. But the biggest expense was photography. And I
Yeah.
was like, I want to make sure because we have like the pictures. I'm gonna get more print when you walk in. We have like I got tons of black and whites because I love black and whites. But when you walk in my house, there's like three and they're like on a slant. When you walk in, they're super pretty. And I was like, I'm totally fine with paying a lot for that. And I think we booked like a 3 hour session and that was it. Like we didn't
Oh
get
wow.
videography. We didn't do like like 3 hours was just enough for like a ton of our own photos, family photos. And like we gave a bunch of those photos out for Christmas and gifts, like for
Oh,
his
I love that.
parents and all the flower girls. That's like a really cute picture of all them like throwing, leaves or whatnot.
Oh,
um, so it worked out great. Like, and it was a perfect day. It was a little bit cold at night, but the venue had heated floors, so we were like
oh,
totally
I love
fine.
that.
I know for like 600 bucks, well, three
You're
hundred
like,
bucks, it was
slay.
it was a steal. But yeah, and then we had money left over and put it towards our honeymoon. And then for our gift, at the wedding, we asked for money for our honeymoon.
Oh, I love that.
So we did well. And then after that, I remember I did have a mini breakdown getting towards the wedding because again, I didn't want a wedding. I didn't want all
Okay.
that planning.
Yeah.
And Joel was like, "I'll help you, don't worry." And like his way of helping at the time was just saying like, "Oh, help you, tell me what to do." But I'm
Yeah.
like, I needed the action of it. And I was just like,
Yes.
I freaking hate my life. This is so much work. I don't want to pick stuff. I just like don't want to do any of that. And then he was like, we should have eloped. And I was like, I told you. But
Oh
once it
my
was all
gosh.
said and done, it was great. It was a perfect day. No rain, no anything. It went great.
Did you feel nervous the day of? Like, what did the day of look like? Because, you have like the quintessential like movie experience, like everything's crazy and everybody's rushing around and all this stuff. Like, how did you feel in that moment?
Just a few nerves because like I
Yeah.
was getting intel that like they forgot this or
Oh,
water or that.
perfect.
And so I'm just like in the like on the car driving there with my aunt, my sister, and I'm just like, Um I think Joel's family was like late getting there, but it was fine. Like it wasn't a big deal. But I was just like, a little on my nerves, but like
Yeah.
maybe if anything, if I could just go back and like relax a little bit more. Like
Yeah.
I'm just very high strung and working on that.
I feel
But
you.
it all literally worked out like 1000% fine. Like could not
Yeah.
have worked out better.
And I feel like even if it's not perfect, like if something goes wrong, it doesn't matter. You're like, it was great. Like you
Yeah.
always can overlook those maybe small things that like weren't
Hmm.
perfect. Oh my God.
Hmm.
I love that. Yeah, we have gotten numbers already and yeah, I'm like so stressed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know if my sister is going to get married or it would probably not be traditional. And like, I want to be able to like give my parents like the experience because like, I think they might be like heartbroken if I was like, oh, we're not gonna like do like a big wedding. Because my mom asked me, we were driving in the car one day, and she's like, are you like gonna have like a wedding or like no? Because I don't really like to be the center of attention. The thought of like standing up there with like our
Oh,
bridesmaids,
I hate it.
I'm like nervous. Like that is where my anxiety is like,
Hmm.
like, but
Hmm.
our one of our like best friends is marrying us. So I was like, that's gonna be, he's
Oh,
gonna be like, he's
nice.
known us from like the beginning of our relationship.
Yeah.
And I have to send you a picture of like the venue. You're like
Hmm.
it's an amphitheater. So like you walk down and like it's outside and you just see the mountains. And I'm like, this is grounding. I need the mountains. Like
Oh,
my
yeah.
nervous system needs like fresh air and the mountains. But
Uh-huh.
I'm just like, there is so much stress over one day or like a weekend. And like
Hmm.
the last thing I want to be concerned about is how I look
Hmm.
because like you said there are a lot of things that have to get delegated and have to get done and so like how did you feel like going into your wedding day? Obviously there was you said some nerves or whatever but thinking about how am I going to look because everybody puts this emphasis it's the most important day of your life and then you're paying a lot
Hmm.
of money for pictures so we can understand why we would have pressure and stress about wanting to look our best because your
Hmm.
whole life that's all you hear and in the movies that's all you hear. So
Hmm.
how is your mindset around like your body image and just the way, your dress looked and all that?
Hmm. So I too wanted to, feel good and feel confident and, feel good in my body and in the dress. And I was kind of planning it out for a while because we knew we were going to get married at a certain point.
Yeah.
And I was planning out because I've always like struggled to build muscle and I wanted to go through a really good bulk, like, period of my life where I'm like eating more food, focusing on gaining muscle, not worried if I'm, a little bit over, like, because when you do a bulk and you're eating in a surplus, you're going to gain fat no matter what.
Yeah.
You
You
can't,
can't
you
avoid
can't,
that.
you can't avoid it. And so I knew that was going to happen. So I basically planned this out like a year and a half. I can't remember how long I planned out before to where I did a bulk and then I maintained and then I was going to cut after that and just in time for the wedding. So I had it planned out very, very well. Um, so I wasn't going into the wedding like rushing. I was like literally, I think I was just finishing up my diet phase. Like I was reversing out of the diet back to like where I would maintain my calories
Yeah.
like during the wedding because we had pushed the cut a little bit farther just to see if we can
Yep.
get any extra out.
Yeah.
But that's how I took it from like, okay, let's see where we, want to be in like a year and a half, a year, and let's plan now. Kind of like what I always tell my clients if we're going to go
Yeah.
into a diet phase, I'm like, what's coming up for you in the next couple months? Are you traveling a lot? Do you have a lot of birthdays? Because we're not going to do a diet phase whenever, we're not going to do a diet phase during the holidays. Like that's insane for a lot of people. So I planned it out well in advance
Yeah.
where by the time I would be trying on dresses, I was basically at the
The
goal and
size you wanted to be.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So like when I got there, like I didn't have like much things to change. Like it was just like,
Right.
maintain like I was where I wanted to be.
Right. And I only laugh because when I started like my last dieting phase, it was December 17th. And
Oh,
most
I remember
people
that.
I would not recommend, but like being somebody, and this is not like a supposed to be like this is, I don't want it to sound like a superiority thing, but like being that I am a coach, I know what I'm doing. I have, I've dieted before. I have a level of discipline I can turn on. Um, and there was also kind of a feeling of like desperation. I'm like I am so unhappy that I feel like I can do this. And like I just had
Hmm.
like I think Christmas Day or whatever, we just treated as like a refeed day. Like it really like I'm not super like
Yeah.
around the holidays, I'm not super food oriented. Like I'm like kind of eat normal, maybe like an extra dessert or something, but like it didn't phase me. But the idea of going back to what you said is looking at like where you want to be and like reverse engineering. I want to be here on my wedding day. So what do I
Mhm.
need to do? And most brides know, I mean, right here, I'm 2 years out from my wedding. Most brides know at least a year. That gives us plenty of time
Mhm.
to look the way that you want to look, to feel the way that you want to look, to do it in a healthy way. On episode 4 of this podcast, if you are just catching this one, go back and listen. We talked about what happens when we diet in an unhealthy way. And when
Mhm.
you're already feeling stress from planning
Yep.
and just the anticipation, we want to really manage that stress. So if we can control the way that you are dieting and losing weight and getting to that goal of where you want to be on your wedding day, if we can do that as least stressful as possible, like sign me the fuck up. Like
Mhm.
I'm right now, I'm in the middle of a reverse. I'll maintain for a while. I already talked to my coach. I'm like, I want to lose this amount of weight. I'm going to be trying dresses on probably next summer because my sister will be home from Vietnam. Got to work around her schedule. So I want to be where I want to be, and I may lose more weight, but I definitely want to be at a certain place. And she's like, perfect. And I'm like, great, we have time.
Mhm.
Zero stress,
Mhm.
zero concern. I have a plan. It's like when you're wedding planning, you don't fucking do it on a whim, no matter how big or small your wedding is.
Right.
You have to plan ahead. And you don't just wake up and be like, oh shit, it's 2 weeks before the wedding. Let me get a photographer. Like,
Right. Right.
that would be crazy.
And that allows you the ability to do it right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Because
So
it
like
can
when
be
I
done fast, but
it's gonna
what
be
happens
hard.
after? What happens after? On the day of your
Right.
wedding, you're like fucking
Right.
starving. You're like, fuck, I need to eat all this shit. And then you
And then
go
you
on a bender
rebound.
and you're like, oh my God, a week later, I feel horrible. My digestion sucks. What happened? We don't want you to like have that moment.
But 100%. And like even like thinking back to me, like my coach was comfortable at the time pushing me. I think I did 20 weeks dieting.
Yeah,
Let me tell you,
it's hard.
it was hard. I think I have only taken one client that long because we've done 4 or 5 diet phases together already.
Yeah.
I know how she responds. She has more weight to lose. It's a little bit safer. But during week like 19, she was like, I think I'm done, Maddie. I'm like, I think you are too.
Yeah.
Like your ability to continue that long is really dependent on how disciplined you are, how much motivation. By that time, you're starving, you're hungry,
Yep.
you're tired. You're not going to get the results you really want because you're like really, really hungry and your
You've
body's like,
you've hit the wall.
yes. Yes. And so I went like 20 full weeks and then we started adding food back in and she wasn't nervous because I've been doing this for how many years.
Yeah.
I was confident in that we could add food back in and then even though I wasn't at maintenance yet, I was still adding calories like through my wedding.
Yeah.
At the wedding, I had like a normal breakfast. I had lunch and then we had dinner at the wedding and it was great. I had some brownies and
Yeah.
cookies and I was like, oh, have a bite of this, have a bite of that. And I wasn't like worried, kind of we talked about before, like the whole binging problem
Mm-hmm.
that I had before. That wasn't even top of mind because I've worked on that issue already. It wasn't like,
Right.
oh my God, cookies, I'm going to eat them all. I didn't have that
And you weren't going into the wedding day also
starving.
starving, right? Like you
I
guys
wasn't.
prepped to be like,
Yes.
I don't want that. Let's bump up the calories
Yep.
as we get closer. So I have that control because I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, I just lack the discipline. But it's like, you can be the most disciplined person, but when you are starving and you've been starving for a while,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be fucking really strong to not let that innate hunger just take over you. So I like that you explained you're like we added calories
Yeah.
before wedding because that's an important
Yes.
factor.
Yeah, and I think I finished up by like the end of the month or so of adding more food in, and that was it. Like I didn't
Yeah.
have a rebound weight. Like I'm pretty sure I weighed maybe a little bit less than that now too, just from
Yeah.
working on like inflammation and things like that. But
Yeah.
there wasn't any rebound for me. And so often we see women that are like, I need to lose X amount for my wedding, which is fine. You're allowed to do that. But then after the wedding, they don't care because they're just like they were so concerned
Yeah.
about the wedding and that was their end date. And
Yeah.
after that, it didn't matter. And then they
Whatever.
have
I don't need to be
rebound
in
weight.
pictures. I already had the wedding, whatever.
Mhm.
And true to a point, like you are allowed to relax, but let's not trash your confidence. Let's not
Mm-hmm.
trash your health. Like, yes, you may not be as concerned, but let's just keep the good vibes going. Let's put you in
Yeah.
a better position so
Yeah.
that you can be a little bit more laxed, but you can also maintain your health, your results, your
Mm-hmm.
confidence. Yeah, it's crazy because, you know, thinking about the day of your wedding, for most people it is like I have to look and feel my best, and it's going to be intense, and this diet is going to be really strict. Like I was saying to Maddie, I think before we were recording, if I already said this, then I already said this, but I know someone that was like would have a bagel and then be like, okay, I need to go for a run. Not here. Not here. Right now I am eating
Mm-hmm.
like more food than I have in probably a year and a half, maybe. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm maintaining my weight or losing weight. And that's not because I'm a superhero. That's not because like anything. It's because like I've taken the time to
Mm-hmm.
diet. I dieted for 24 weeks. It was really fucking hard. At like
Oof.
the 22nd week, I was like, okay, next check-in, like I need food. Okay, perfect. We did it. It was great. Started the reverse. My body is looking better in my reverse. My
How
confidence
cool
is
is that?
better. How cool is that? Like, and this
Mm-hmm.
is what we like tell our clients. We're like, I know it's scary, but like it works. And like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why we share our clients' stories, our own stories, because the magic that happens when like you get to actually like heal that metabolism and like have it feeling like I always like to envision it like it feels safe. Like it's not fighting for its fucking life anymore. Like when you are like down bad and you're like, "Oh my God, I am so starving. I can't lose weight doing anything." It's like, "Okay, it's not you, it's your metabolism." And we need to
Yeah.
not focus on how disciplined you are, but in fact, focus on like maybe pulling back and adding in some food and doing different things. But I keep feeling like I know I am going to be so confident, and the last thing on my mind is going to be my body because I know I'm prepping for it in the
Mm-hmm.
best way possible. And my metabolism is in such a good place right now that when I go into my next dieting phase,
Oh, it's gonna go so well. Yeah.
so well. My dieting phase in 2020, I knew it was gonna 2022, excuse me. I knew it was not gonna be great. I knew it, but I was like, you know what? Sometimes coaches just we are not logical, and sometimes we
Yeah.
act on our emotions, and that was fine. And I was like talking to Kelsey, and I was like, I know this is going to be hard, but like I gotta do this because future Allie just needs something. And then we were talking and we are like, wow, next dieting phase together is going to be like really fun because my body is going to be like so fucking happy. And like
Yeah.
our conversations about like wedding is not I need to lose X amount of weight. It's just like, I want to lose X amount of weight, but if I get to a point and I don't lose all the weight, but I feel good, I don't care.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I mean, even when I
Yeah.
think back, like two things, like my first coach, Ember, on her like the intake form was like, "What's your goal weight?" And
Eek.
I had that on mine as well, just to
Yeah.
like get an idea, or what's your
It's
goal?
good to know. Sure.
Yeah, what's your number one goal? And I was like, I just want to be lean and jacked. Like, like I
Yeah.
don't care what my weight is, lean and
Yeah.
jacked. That's all I want.
Yeah.
And same like you are putting your metabolism in such a freaking good spot compared to women that trash their metabolism because they're just eating less, they're doing more cardio, they're burning more, and then they get to their wedding and then they have like a binge because you've been restricting so hard. Now your metabolism is like effed. Like you are
Yeah.
so low that you have to keep eating low to maintain that. But you can't maintain that because you're tired, you're hungry, your body needs food. You start eating a lot of food fast. That's how we get weight gain and the rebound. So
Yep.
Allie putting her metabolism in the best spot possible is going to mean not only is she going to reach the goal of where she wants to be and confidence wise where she wants to be, but she's going to be able to maintain that a lot easier.
Right. And the reason why, in 2022, why my metabolism got trashed, like if you're thinking, well, how did it get there? My mental health was in a horrible place. I had been on a couple of medications for a couple of years, and one of the side effects can be weight gain, which I'm not totally blaming it on, but it made me much hungrier. Like my hunger cues were way thrown off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had left a coach with a protocol that did not function for me. And
Mm-hmm.
we are human. I am human. You get fucking fed up trying to maintain and lose weight and also try and deal with your mental health and run a business or have kids or whatever the fuck you're doing, that I gave up. Part of it was I there is so much lack of control, and a lot of it
Mm-hmm.
was with my mental health, that it's like I don't have any more to give. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a place that I told my coach, I was like, I can't ever get there again. I have to
Mm-hmm.
rewire my brain. I'm gonna like get emotional. Like it's too early to cry. What, I can't cry
You're
already.
allowed to. You're allowed to.
I'm a big crier, but like I will cry like once a day. Like I was thinking of my best friend giving like her speech at my wedding. I cry every time I think about it. And I text her. Like
Aw.
emotional alley is like what you got. But I told her, I was like, I can never get to that place again. Like I have to, and this is the part where I think that everything happens for a reason and we get to choose what we learn from it. And I never learned how to focus on my mental health with my panic disorder and my physical health.
Mm-hmm.
I was running, or I was burning the candle on both ends for a while. I got diagnosed in 2019, and then through 2021, I was just burning the candle on both ends. My mental health
Mm-hmm.
was shit, but I was like, you know what? At least I look good. And that's all I would tell myself. I was like, whatever, whatever.
Oh my God.
Like, but would I ever say that to a client? No. Why do I say that to
No.
myself? Because, we go through things, and it was also, a pandemic, and like it was so crazy for everybody, and we all cope with it differently. And finally, I think I just hit a wall, and I was just like burnt the fuck out, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And like, because I basically stopped everything at once, like working out started to slowly become non-existent. The coach that I had was like, oh, we were dieting at like these really low calories, let's not track our food and aim for this amount of food.
Mm-hmm.
That is like telling somebody to go find a buried treasure without a map.
Right.
What am I supposed to do? So I don't want, you guys to be afraid, thinking like, oh, what if that happens to me? No, it is actually pretty hard to gain that amount of weight in a short period of time, because it was just like the house fell. Like it was destroyed, dumpster fire. But the plus side to that is I now know how to support myself when that anxiety is bad. I got my B game. I'm like, all right, what the fuck are we doing? What do we have the capacity for? And
Mm-hmm.
that is the biggest game changer, because like I'm going to have those moments, and like everybody's going to have those moments where like the anxiety is high, the mental health is not on point. But what can you
Mm-hmm.
still do to take care of yourself? And it might
Mm-hmm.
feel like going for a walk might feel like the hardest thing sometimes, but if you do it, then you can be like, okay, I did it. And I did something for myself today. And that was really challenging, but I did that. And it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look like it does on fucking Instagram. Like, do this for your morning routine. Nah. Like, no. Bitch,
Right. Right.
sorry. Like, my struggles, they are not going to be cured by like putting some lemon water in my greens and like going for a walk in my cute workout set. It's like, I might look like a raccoon walking outside, but hey, at least I'm getting sunshine, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because I just had a client who was going through her parents are older and they both are having health problems. They were going to one of their vacation houses and then she had to go all the way back home and it's just chaos. And she's like, I barely did this check-in. Like, I don't even need a response. And I was like, this is the time you need a response from me, because like a good friend, Rachel Pressler, she's a coach as well. After she said this, I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, think of your health and your fitness as you're juggling all these balls in the air. You can only juggle so much. Something has to drop. And the same thing I told her. I was like, listen, this was like one of the most craziest weeks of your life. It's going to continue to be crazy. Not everything is going to be upheld perfectly. You may not be able to track every day. You might only track a couple times this week. Your workouts may be a little bit, a little messy. You might only get half it, whatever it is. But pick a few things you can continue doing and just stick with that and know this is just a phase. It's not forever, because if you put all this pressure on yourself to be perfect, especially with high stress, one, your body's on like stress just from like she had to go here, fly here, drive there, stress in that way, and then stress from seeing your parents sick, and then trying to work out super hard and all these things. You're just like digging yourself a hole. So like if you could just focus on having water, going for a walk, getting some sunlight. Don't put more pressure on yourself to show up to a level that you can't possibly show up right now. And
Yeah.
sometimes, we need to hear that, and people need to hear that because we expect a lot and think we have to be doing so much to make progress. But that just might not be the season of life you're in. And that's fine, because we can't be
Yes.
going at 100 miles an hour 24/7. We're going to burn out.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I love how you said sunlight, water, and I don't know what else you said.
Steps or,
Steps. Something. That is sometimes all that you can do. And as coaches, we don't expect perfection from our clients. We don't expect perfection from ourselves. I would never expect perfection from Maddie. She wouldn't expect it from me. And that's because like we're human. We understand shit happens. But what
mm-hmm.
I think we do accept from or expect from our clients is that they share with us. Like how you
Mm-hmm.
said your client was like, you don't even need to respond. No, I'm gonna decide who if I need to respond. And this is the time where I want to support you extra. And that's the cool thing that we do get to do as coaches. We get to help our clients and remind them that like this phase right now, this moment might be really chaotic, but I'm proud of you for showing up
Mm-hmm.
despite that. Even if it's
Mm-hmm.
drinking water and eating 3 meals, because sometimes that
Mm-hmm.
stress is like, I can't eat, I can't drink,
Mm-hmm.
I feel stuck. Even those, and I hate to even call them little things because in those moments it feels really big, but the simple things, we don't have to go above and beyond. We don't have to stress ourselves out more. So I love that component because the idea of like the juggling all these different things, something is going to drop eventually. And what are
Mm-hmm.
you going to do? How are you going to respond when you can't carry
Mm-hmm.
it all?
Mm-hmm.
that
Exactly.
that's the part that matters. It doesn't impress me when you can show up perfectly when life is fine and you have no stress and like you're like everything's great, this is so easy. That doesn't impress me. It impresses me when you're like, I'm going through a shit storm, I need help, coach. What can I do? Like that, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this is somebody that is fighting for what they want.
Mm-hmm. And it makes you so much more aware for next time, because like we said a million
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
there will be a next time something like this happens. And if you only worked on your goals when life was perfect, you literally would work on them like 1% of the time,
Yeah, like
because
1 week.
something's always going to show up and always be like, oh, this happened, that happened. And you could call them excuses, but they are things that take a big toll out of your life, whatever they are. And we just have to learn how to get to those, encounter them, and get through it, and to get ready for the next time. Not to like be like something's always going to happen, but something will happen that will make you stray away from what your number one priority is at that time.
Yeah. I think you can also you can potentially find yourself adopting the mindset that like, oh, poor me, something is always happening. And like you can when life has been shit for me, I have made big deals out of very small things. Like, oh, I'm running late and
Same.
I don't have gas. Really? Are you fucking kidding me? And it's like,
Yep.
you're the reason why you don't have gas. You should have got it yesterday. So like,
I used
it's
to do that a lot.
right. Like I literally was running late the other day and I'm like, don't have gas. I'm running late. And I was like, okay, chill, take a second. We will get there. It's okay if we're a couple of minutes late. Nothing is happening. The world is not ending.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I almost was like, I just not going to work out today. And then I was like, no, I think we need to go and release some of this anger that we're having and just like go throw
Mm-hmm.
around some weights. And
Mm-hmm.
if we can catch ourselves in that moment of like where we are, like low key being ridiculous. But we're human, so like you can have that pass, but just like call yourself out on your bullshit. Um, it makes you more equipped to handle it the next time, which is like I like how you said that. Like think
Yeah.
about how, you're learning the tools to be able to handle situations even better the next time. And
Because
that
there will
I
be a
like.
next time, and now you know, and then you don't have to have all the like, you basically whipping yourself like, oh, bad Maddie, I didn't do this.
Yeah.
You don't have that. Like, I just get through it. Like, another great example of this was like, my mentor was talking about, how we process things. Like, we don't let it become such a big thing. Like, had something
Mm,
like if I made a mistake, I used to fester on that mistake for days, for hours, for like months. I can't believe I did that. Now I move through things so fast. I'm like, that sucked. Moving on. Like, I'm not going to sit there and beat myself up anymore. And it takes so much less mental brain space than sitting there and being mad at myself. And then I can't move on. Like, who is that helping? No one.
right.
No one
Yeah.
at all.
I love that. And that's it's so applicable, especially for like people listening, like in all aspects of life, like truly. The other day I mistracked food and I like ended up going over a little bit because I had forgotten to track something. Okay, what do I do? Like an old version of me might have been like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. Why didn't I do that? Now I'm not perfect. I'm over calories. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, not a big deal. Tomorrow's a new day. It's not going to make or break my progress. And when we can
Mhm.
have that reaction over all areas of our life, it makes it more attainable to show up consistently because we know
Mhm.
we're not going to have a breakdown at the slightest inconvenience or mistake. So,
Right. And
yeah.
sorry, my battery saver went on. It turned down my screen. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and you're gonna learn that over time. And whether, I mean, we've probably both taught all of our clients that similar thing
Yeah.
because we all, that's not something like this should be taught in like first grade. Like, honestly, like,
Yeah.
imagine how much better we would have functioning people if we taught them how to go through, anxiety ridden events or how to process when they make a mistake and what to do during that. And that's why it's so important that we as coaches and in general for your own like personal growth, you aren't just working on the goal like accomplishing x, getting to x weight, or getting whatever. You're also working on how you handle situations because that's going to impact how you get to that goal.
Yes. Yeah. It's something that so many of us learn in like adulthood, and that makes it harder because we're more resistant. We think we know everything. We think
Hmm.
we're fine how it is, but you're right. If we could instill that in like our tiny humans and like remind them these things, and that's kind of how I would love to be able to like raise my children in like an environment where like they're allowed to make mistakes and it's not the end of the world, and what can we learn from this, and it's okay to have big emotions, and it's
Hmm.
okay to feel all of these things because I was a very high anxiety child and I was
Hmm.
always afraid that my emotions were too big, and
Mm.
that bit me in the ass because I remember one story. We were like going to like look, we were like at my uncle's house and they live on like a big piece of property, and we were going to look at deer, and I was like really terrified. I was so scared. I don't know why, but I was not going to be with my mom, and I like didn't
Uh-huh.
have the option. It was like you're going, and I was like I don't want to
Mhm.
go. And my
Mhm.
stress response is throwing up. Like I was dry and I just threw up. And I'm
Oh.
like that I can pinpoint to so many parts of my life that even today, when I am having a panic attack, I throw up because it's just like my
Mm.
vomit, stress, hello. So if I could do something, for my children in that way of like letting them like have choices. And I get, sometimes you can't always let your kids like, they don't run the house. You have to help guide them, but just helping them to be successful in it in that way, I feel like is one of my
Mhm.
like main goals as a mom. Like I've like thought about this like since I was like a kid. I was like, when I'm a
Mm.
mom, like I feel like I was like not in the misogynistic way, but like I was born to be a mom. Like I want to
Hmm.
take care of these tiny humans and grow them in this like incredibly safe environment and supportive environment. And
Hmm.
that it just feels like that's my like that's one of my big like missions, like my purpose
Hmm.
among other things. And like I don't know, like it feels like so corny, but I
No, no,
like
I don't think so. I think that's really nice. Like I don't hear that a lot. And also like I tend to have friends who are like very far from having kids because of
yeah,
I don't want to have kids, but
right.
just because I don't want something doesn't mean someone else can't want that, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's way more nice to hear that from someone who just knows that about themselves. And
Yeah.
that's really cool that you can kind of create that environment for
Yeah.
them, you know, to
Yeah.
flourish. And I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, do you think, and this might be a not a weird question, I don't know how you're going to take it, so
It's
hopefully you take it
okay.
fine.
I'll take it good. I promise I will.
Do you think, and this is just from curiosity here,
Yeah.
do you think part of your, for lack of better words, healing through your panic disorder is being okay with having bigger emotions and expressing emotions and moving through those?
I would say probably part of it because my panic disorder or my panic attacks, excuse me, they're quiet. Like it's not like something that you would see on TV. Like if I'm having one, it's like I'm having one, and I will tell people that I'm around, like if I'm with James or when my sister was home, I'm like I'm having a panic attack, and but if it's in public, I can be very quiet and like hold it in and just kind of like excuse myself. So in some ways, I think it's just being okay and not judging myself with the big feelings because a lot of the times if I don't catch it in time, like taking medication to like calm my nervous system down, it's big and it's ugly and it's embarrassing and it's a
Mhm.
lot, but I've become less embarrassed about it because
Mhm.
I have no control. And
Mhm.
I would not judge somebody for something that they don't have control over. So I
Mhm.
don't judge myself, but it is still really vulnerable. So there is a part of it where it's like, I still do judge myself. And then I think it's also, I go back to just like biology. I'm like, this is something that I know is in my family. This is something that's been passed down.
Mhm.
This is something that I can actually ground myself to. This is
Mhm.
this is cortisol, this is adrenaline, it is running through the system. Like, so in those ways, it can also kind of help me to overcome it and like not judge and whatever, just because I'm like, it's biology. So
Mhm.
it's the healing process, I would say, is like twofold. One is accepting the big feelings and just knowing that like the people that truly love me do not judge me.
Mhm.
I'm like, James is like seeing me like like the last time I had a panic attack, he woke up with me and he like slept on the couch. I was like, you can go back to bed, it's fine. He's like, no, no, I'm not gonna leave you alone. I was like, this man loves me.
Mhm.
This man is like so
Mhm.
over time it's just gotten to the point where like if they love me, they will not judge me.
Mhm.
And that allows me to heal in a way because it doesn't feel as lonely and like
Mhm.
isolating. And I don't have to be so quiet about it.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Man, panic disorders are just like that's like layered, so
It's,
layered.
yeah. And like, I never, like, my parents are pretty quiet about like their own childhood and whatever, but like both sides of my parents' family have a lot of mental health issues. And so me and my sister always joke around and we're like, we got fucked up. Like we got the lot of it all. Um, but we are very open, which
Uh-huh.
I think is also probably healing for my parents in a way to like for us to be so open and honest
Yeah.
probably allows them to take less judgment that they might not even know that they're feeling. So I
Mm.
view it as like it's confusing and it sucks and like why me, but I am also on the same side of like it's I can handle it. Like I don't really believe in God, but I think that I kind of believe in like universal things and maybe spiritual things, but I think that like I am going through this because I can, because I have the strength, if you will, to be able
Mhm.
to shoulder it. And I'm going to be coming out on the other side of it better because who knows, my children could have really bad anxiety and I'm going to be
Mhm.
the mom that like can really relate to them and not just in a way where it's like, you're safe, I love you, but like, I get you. Like, mom gets what you're going through and just,
Mhm.
I don't know, getting to be that safe space. So I try and view it in a positive way on the days where it's not so bad.
And that's so cool because like I feel like this generation, like our age, having kids, those kids are going to be in such a better position now,
Yeah.
albeit if we like think about like social media, maybe not so much.
That's yeah,
Um,
that's tricky. It's
right. But like the mental health side, like I
yeah,
wish my parents loved them, but I wish they like that wasn't talked about
right.
at all. It wasn't anything we talked about. Oh, my computer's dying.
No.
um,
Do we need
but
to wrap up?
I mean, we are almost on an hour and a half,
Yeah, I
but
know.
real quick, but I can only imagine what life would have been like if we talked about those things and had more open communication. So I think our generation hopefully will have more of those, discussions and less
Yeah.
stigma on things and you know, like mom goes to therapy, you're allowed to go
Yeah.
too, all those type of
Yeah.
things. And I think that's very hopeful.
I agree because like when I started therapy at like 14 and it was mortifying. It was embarrassing. And now
Really?
I was oh yeah, because like none of my friends were in it. Like my
Oh,
mom had never been, my dad had never been, like
yeah,
nobody. So it was like, oh, this is embarrassing. Like, gotta go to therapy after school, like blah blah blah.
that's true.
Embarrassing. And now I'm like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta go to therapy. Like, woo.
I
So
know. I'm like posting about it. I'm like
yeah,
therapy.
like so I think it'll get to be a cool thing to help even just like see the little people growing up. Like I have
Yeah,
cousins that are young and that sort of stuff and just to see them like how how I get to kind of help them in that way. Just in my own babies. I always think of my future babies
yeah. I like
because I'm a
that.
crazy person.
You're not. You're not. Okay. Any last final thoughts?
No, this was we like we just talk so much and I love that and I just want to keep
I
going, but
know.
we have to stop. Don't ask
We've
me my
reached.
final thoughts because it will just keep
Okay.
going.
We'll just wrap it here. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching to Kind of Hot, Kind of Healthy. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. We have no reviews or rates on Spotify. Please, someone just drop us the 5. We're 5 stars. Okay. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you stream podcasts. If you have a burning question about life, friendship, health, and want our 2 cents, email us at kindahotpod@gmail.com. That's KINDAHOTPOD@gmail.com. We love to include this new segment to make blah blah. Make sure to send us your questions. And that's it. Bye guys.
Bye.